Streaming harder than having a 9 to 5?
Streaming harder than having a 9 to 5.
Does it not go full screen? I'm trolling. My bad.
Well, you never had
Now,
one, so
I mean, well, when I was 15, I
okay.
did have a job and I did
What'd you
stream.
do?
I worked, it was a caretaker home. You know where like you send your grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
I worked in the kitchen in a caretaker home.
Okay.
And I was like a server, right? So give them the food, and
Yes,
deliver their
yes.
food. But and let me tell you this. No, no. When I worked there, it was way harder. It's just draining, mentally. It's just nah. I don't even get.
Streaming harder than having a 9.
All right, I'm gonna break it down like this. Anyone says anything different, they're stupid. So there's two different types of fatigue, right? There's the bot is like physical and there's mental. So when you stream, right, you get that physical fatigue. You feel tired. You don't look at the screen no more, and you get off. When you work, you could be work. There's physical and mental fatigue, especially if you talk to people all day. So I worked in a restaurant, not a restaurant, excuse me. I worked at a clothing place. It was called Route 21. This actually got discontinued. The place got went bankrupt. So I would have to be the person that would greet people. And not only would I greet you, but I had to literally go up to you, hand you a flyer for a credit card, tell you the promotions, ask you about your day, all of that, bro. So imagine that, but like 100 times at least a day. So I had to do that over and over and over and over. When I wasn't doing that, I was fixing up the same clothes over and over. I was putting these what's it called, the hangers and stuff on clothes, and I think it was called processing or something. It wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun job. The only thing that made the job somewhat cool was management. But I say that to say this is that when I worked that job, bro, and it was a part-time job. There were sometimes I'd stay there for 8 to 10 hours, but most of the time I was just chilling unless they needed me. So the thing about the working that job is it it would leave you so physically drained that you didn't even want to talk to people anymore. You wanted to get home and get hop on a game, but now you didn't even want to do that, bro. You're like, I'm good. You just want to chill out and watch some YouTube, go to sleep, bro, because it drains you mentally and physically. And like the pain that you'd be on from standing on your feet all day. Those of you who work a job where you stand on your feet all day, y'all know what I'm talking about. Standing on your feet all day, because I would go straight from practice to this job. I had to walk like a mile and some change to this job after practice. For those of y'all who don't know, I'm a Paralympic athlete, so I would walk from training straight to the job, and I'd be there for hours and hours, just standing on my feet, not really getting much of a break, right? I got like a 15-minute break, and if I worked a certain amount of time, I got a 30. Um, so and the 30 was unpaid. So I'm over here helping. You got to deal with these rude customers. You got to deal with so many different types of people. I say all this to say that if you say that streaming is harder than if you tell me that streaming is harder than working a 9 to 5, you might just be dumb. You might be stupid because it's not even comparable. The only time streaming is kind of like especially wear on you is if you care about the numbers and you don't have that many. Like if you're streaming to one person and that bothers you. So a lot of streamers, you'll see them say like, "Oh, I streamed to one person for a year. I streamed to one." They wouldn't bring that up if they didn't care about that. If they didn't care about streaming to one person, if it didn't mean anything, they wouldn't try to use that to motivate you. But they know that'll motivate you. Why? Because they know a lot of other people are dealing with streaming to one person, two people. I'm streaming to like probably like five people max right now, right? So sometimes it's hard when you're sitting here for like an hour, 2 hours, sitting there on the game, like, or sitting there on the game, or doing whatever you do, streaming, trying to entertain people, trying to achieve your goals, and you look up at the top left, and you're like the only person there, right? You got one person watching, and that's you. So that's the time where streaming can be really physically, I mean, really mentally draining, like really mentally draining, especially if you let it get to you. Um, so that's one thing, and I'd say it's harder to start streaming, right? It's harder to start because with a job, if you have the right qualifications, you fill out an application, they call you, you go in, you start working, and there's a setup process. But when it comes to streaming, you have to have a PC. If you want a game, you have to have a cap. If you want a game on like a console, you have to have a capture card. You have to have a console. You have to figure out how to work the capture card, figure out what to put where what and what. You have to set up OBS, and you have to set up you have to set up all the different things, and nothing wants to work. You have to set up commands. You have to set, and then you have to figure out what are you going to stream on, what are you going to stream about, what are you going to how long can you stream, when are you going to make time to stream, how are you going to make videos from the stream. So all these people that say that working a job is is harder. Yes, it is harder, but I think it's harder to get your foot into the door streaming, right? In order to go full-time streaming, that's probably way harder than it'll ever be to have a job that'll, can put, put on the bills, pay the bills. If that makes, I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully that makes sense. Like, I don't think it's, yeah, it's not comparable, but yeah. But yeah, that's my take on is streaming harder. Is streaming harder? Yeah, it's harder.